Danger on the job. Television and radio reporters as well as photojournalists sometimes do encounter life-threatening situations while covering a story, and they often become the story themselves in those circumstances. KTLA's Lynette Romero here now with her very own survival story. What a story it is, Lynette.
You know, Mike, it's really surreal when I think about it even now. It happened when I was an anchor reporter in Denver back in the 90s. I was in a news helicopter when it developed engine problems and the aircraft went down. KTLA's photojournalist Carlos Cortez helped me tell my story of survival in a new documentary about women in television.
And back here at home, the piloted crew on board Sky 9, Channel 9's news helicopter, are recovering from minor injuries tonight after their chopper crashed this morning on Pikes Peak. The pilot, Art Hill, reporter Lynette Romero, and photographer Kirk Selby were all able to get out of the wreck.
And photographer Kirk Selby walked away.
Sky 9 has been in an accident near Pikes Peak. We are very glad to report everyone will be okay.
Lynette and Art are hanging in there too?
There's no doubt about it. Denver has had more than its share of problems with television news helicopters.
It hurts, you know, but we're okay, we're alive. That's what counts.
It was just a typical news day, just a typical story. I was just doing my job, actually working on my day off because they thought that the story was going to need somebody who spoke Spanish, so I went on it. And it ended in a day that, you know, I became the story. I remember as we were crashing, screaming no, like, no, I don't want to die. Once I realized that I was alive and the photographer was alive and the pilot was alive, just thinking, you know, none of us will ever be the same again. I knew what it was like having the cameras on me. Walking off, we were limping off of that mountain. It happened at 10 and we didn't get off the mountain until 4 that afternoon. And we happened to be walking off the mountain live on our 4 o'clock show, and there were cameras all around us and reporters, you know, trying to talk to us and microphones in our faces, and I had blood on my face and my tooth was chipped and I was a mess and I was crying and we were limping and they were trying to get us into an ambulance. And that's what we do, you know, we cover people like that, and all of a sudden I'm in front of the camera being interviewed. Really, every day something could happen when we risk our lives to cover a story.
You know, my story is just one of many in a new documentary titled Seasoned. The film is produced by KTLA photojournalist Carlos Cortez, Khalid Shabazz, and James Henley. For details on how you can see the entire documentary, just log on to KTLA.com and click on the red info button. You know, all these years later, it's still just, it really is surreal to see that, because I do remember every moment of it. You can't kind of dwell on it. It really, but it changes your life. It changes how you see the world. It changes how you do your job, how you interview people, all of those things.
You talk about the physical injuries, the neck injuries, but the psychological damage, and you perhaps never recover from that fully, and what it's done to you and impacted you.
Right. You know, it's interesting, Micah, because it's damage in some ways, but in many ways it's a blessing, because it gives you the depth of perspective that you really need to be a good storyteller, or, you know, to be a compassionate storyteller. Sure. So it did change the way I did my work, but it did, I think, for the better if you kind of turn it around.
I can see that. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Okay, Lynette. Investigators in Ventura